If it's your wishes to keep them at home versus researching and finding a quality retirement community for them to live in, are you willing to be that involved in their daily lives to make it work?
It is a wonderful gift to be prepared, to know what the next step is. Everybody be on board. It eliminates so much family drama and fights.
It's human nature not to want to face reality. As adult children, that's much easier to deal with. When you go in and hit it on, head on, then that's harder. I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's not.
Sure did. Exactly right.
To go get some ice
cream. Yeah. And it's so exciting to be a part of.
Amazing.
It's one of the biggest things I think we've learned.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, hello, everyone, and we like to welcome you here today. Grab a chair, get comfortable, and join us right here on Around the Table with Vickie. And whether this is your first time listening, or you've been here since the very beginning, or you fall in between somewhere, we appreciate you. Hopefully you found insight, education, and encouragement along the way. And don't forget to make sure you check out our podcast channels. Give us a like, a follow, a subscribe, leave a comment. It would mean the world to us. Plus, you'll get some behind-the-scenes footage of what may be going on here in the studio. But without further ado, we have a great show in store for you today. You know the drill. I'm your co-host, Chris Runk, and across the table from me, as always, is your host, my mother. We're all here around her table, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm so glad to
Vickie
be
Runk.
here. Yes, glad to be here with everybody again today. And I always get excited about talking about subjects that I feel like can immediately help someone. So let's dive right on in.
We're going to jump in on it, and I think we got a great show in store today, Mom. Our senior conversations and brought up topics that they maybe have never thought about before, just because when those times come, you don't know where to begin looking. So we're happy to be in information.
I like to refer to that as the fast and furious, because that's exactly how it goes when things start going downhill with your mom or dad. And you're going to have to explore some lifestyle changes for them. Time really doesn't wait on us to do our homework. We really need to do that beforehand.
Mom, if I were to say no family dreams about the day they must consider senior living, but avoiding the conversation often creates crisis decisions.
Yeah, I'm going to try to dumb that down a little bit. Any of you that know me personally knows that I'm a dog lover. And I have this soon-to-be 17-year-old Maltese. Her name is Minnie. You know about Miss Minnie.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking about as we were looking at this show, how we could kind of dumb this down a little bit to where people kind of get on the train and listen. I know her health is failing, and I could just decide to ignore that. But what makes me feel better, because I love her so much, she has been with me for 17 years.
She's a staple.
Is that I've gone to the vet, and we have discussed her plan as she begins to hit her really last stages here. And each day I wake up and wonder, is this the day? But you know what? I know I'm prepared for it if it is. And you all talk about in the house, oh my goodness, when that time comes. But I also feel very confident that I am prepared for her care along the way. And she's on heart medicine, and she's on fluid pills and all the things. And how many times during the day do I say, I can't do that, I've got to go check on my dog? Well, it's the same thing with when you're dealing with your parents. If you go to the doctors with them and you find out what challenges they are facing and what they're going to be facing even further down the road, you then develop a plan that you not only can agree with, but that you understand. And so it might be silly comparing this to my dog, but I totally understand what she's facing. And the only way I can be at ease in my heart is to follow through with the plan that me and the vet have made for her. And it's no different with your parents. You can either be caught off guard, and because I've gone to the emergency vet plenty of times at 5 a.m. with her before the holidays. I was a little caught off guard, but now I have a plan. And you can follow the rules of what it's like to navigate all this senior care. Or you can just become to the point to where I have no idea what's going on with Mom. I don't know what to do. And that's where fear, anxiety, and a lack of communication can really set in with families.
That's a perfect point there, Mom. And I actually had written down early planning versus reacting to an emergency. And I think you just summed that up great. And let me do say, whenever there is a problem, she said she must go check on her dogs.
That's right.
We drop everything. It doesn't matter what is going on. And I imagine that, you should do the same for your parents. Whenever you get that call, it doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter family event, job. They should become your first priority.
Well, you have two kinds of seniors that age two different ways. You have the mom or the dad that don't give you enough information about what their status is for the day. And you have to kind of go and check on them visually to make sure they've given you all that information. And then you have that mom or dad that want to over dramatize everything that's going on with them as they age. And then that makes you think, well, are they crying wolf? But unfortunately, you have to go visually check on them. So if you don't live near your mom or dad, there needs to be a plan of either a neighbor, you hire a caregiver that checks in regularly so that you can get proper information. Again, it's all about staying informed, alert, and in tuned with your parents.
Mom, if I were to say why do families delay the conversation? Obviously, there's so many points, but what would you say maybe is it 2 or 3 of the main reasons?
The most inevitable one to me is that it's human nature not to want to face reality. If it's not in front of us every day and we're not facing it, then all of a sudden those heartaches, the feeling like you've got 10 pounds of bricks on your chest because you're watching your parents age, it's not there because it's out of sight, out of mind. So lots of times just the mere human nature of I don't want to deal with that till I have to is a lot. It's the stance that a lot of adult children take. And I feel like that really unarms you for the battle, because if you stay engaged and if you really face reality, the battle's going to be so much easier and it can actually be won. This is not an easy thing. I've gotten several calls just over the past week of people that their parents live away from here, and how can I help them? One of the things I wanted to say on the show, for those that are really having a hard time navigating whether mom and dad are really ready to give up some independence because they're giving them some struggles of I'm fine and you don't need to get in my business kind of information. There's the area on aging that is in every state, in every county and every city that is state ran. And you can go to that agency and you can get information on caregiving, finances, if someone's eligible for help financially, maybe she qualifies or your parents qualify for some financial assistance, and it'll allow a couple of caregivers to come into the home a couple times a week. Veterans administrations, you can reach out to see if your parent, whoever served in the military, is eligible for additional benefits. A lot of people don't know that, and it makes all the difference in the world. Adult daycare, which we've talked about. A lot of the stuff we've talked about in the past, but we're re-entering the topic because it seems to be really something that people are asking for to repeat right now. Adult daycare is a wonderful place to start, just to make sure that they're getting their socialization. They get a hot meal every day, and they get, time out. We go out on outings, and there's several adult daycares here in town, but of course we like the Runk and Pratt right here on Perryville Road, but there are others that you can reach out for as well. So there is some financial help out there, and this is true all across the country. There's the ombudsman that you can reach out to in your locality. Every state has it. Every locality has it. And they will come into the home and they'll meet with you. They'll get on the phone with you if you're away, and they'll meet with your parents and see what are they seeing inside the home. Can they recommend some services that can be brought into the home? Because again, we want to try to leave them at home as much as possible. And then I think there's just this idea of this will never happen to me. Mm-hmm. Just the idea of mom's just going to pass away in her sleep, and we're never going to have any struggles, and I'm just going to be able to slide through this easily. And 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. Again, I revert back to my dog. When I asked the vet recently, will she just pass in her sleep peacefully? She let me know that mostly that was probably not going to happen. We would have to intervene in some way. So what am I doing right now? I'm emotionally preparing myself for that. And so I would recommend adult children do that too. Get on podcasts, listen to steps you have to take to emotionally, again, let go of your mom and dad's independence and help them accept that they may need help one day. That's the most important role you can play as an adult child as you begin to get into your 60s and they're getting into their 80s, sometimes 90s, is just teaching them to accept help and realize it's not a failure to need help.
Absolutely. That was a great conversation right there. So many points. I'm kind of like, man, there's a lot to dive in there too. Real quick, just because it is such a great resource, tell everybody about the area on agency, that one more time.
So wherever you live, in whatever city or county you're in, there's a local agency on aging, and they hold the keys to a lot of your questions.
Well, Mom, those are all great points, and we can actually drop it in the description on our podcast channels, the area on agency, where people can find resources to find that information, because it is a great place.
Aging Council, and it's an agency that will house the ombudsman, Adult Protective Services, which is another great resources for people living in the home. Sheriff Ayers was here recently. We talked about the local sheriff's department, Project Lifesaver, Project Lifeline, that's in Amherst County alone. And wherever you live across the United States, these sheriff's departments have all of these ways of protecting and monitoring too, if there's an emergency. We talked about too, just simple things at home. The fire department will come out and inspect and help you make sure that all your fire alarms have batteries in them and they're working, so we don't ever want to face that kind of fear. There's just things that we can do to be proactive if you choose to leave mom and dad at home, because you want to make sure that all those safety factors are there. Last time we talked about the cameras, making sure that they're on the front of the house and on the eaves of the house and in the back, where if there was an emergency or there was a fall, you can even link those to your phone. We do that. Yep. You can link those. If you're not living in the town with mom and dad, you can link those cameras to your phone and you can check on them regularly. There's alarms and alerts that go off whenever things like that happen. So there's ways of keeping mom and dad in their environment, but that area on agency, the aging part of that agency, will help you absorb all of those questions, and it's a great resource for families to use, and we will link that.
So what I'm hearing you say is really those adult children, you have to carve out time and educate yourself and make an effort. There sounds like there are, and I know there are, tremendous resources out there, but you have to set up those cameras. You have to do the legwork of making yourself. I know if I was in it, I would feel a lot better about living my life, my day, knowing that mom and dad are safe.
No, absolutely. And we can even go into some of these seniors that are on SNAP benefits for Virginia right now, which is, it's a food program that you qualify for financially, and you go to the area on aging, to that department, and they will help you know whether you financially qualify for that. But they now are able to collect and spend those SNAP benefits because we want to promote healthy eating and healthy living at some of the local farmers markets. And so those are things that just anybody wouldn't know unless they go and see what all is available to my mom or dad and what do they qualify for. Because the state, the Commission on Aging that is at a state level is doing everything they can to dip in and see where can they help these seniors as they age, because it's becoming more and more of a problem. The economy is taking a lot of money out of these seniors' pockets, and so the state is stepping in and helping any way they can. But as the adult children, you got to know what to ask and where to ask it at.
And I think your point of being prepared, you mentioned about Minnie, our dog, preparing, it's something you don't want to face. And there's so much I have also on my notes, the emotional guilt or weight that may go with, the guilt, the fear, the denial. But I think that is a wonderful gift. And honestly, you're even providing some of that to myself and my brother and my sister, even at your age. And it is a wonderful gift to be prepared, to know what the next step is. Everybody be on board. It eliminates so much family drama and fights. So the preparedness, even though you don't want to face it, I think is key.
Well, and I feel like after doing this for 30 some years now, that you can eliminate the guilt that you feel about your parents aging or having to place them or having to get involved and having them say, this really isn't your business, son. I've got this under control. By just being prepared to be available to them. And that's where it starts, is having those conversations of, how can I help you today? I'm here. Is there anything that needs to be done? That's when you'll discover some of the shortfalls that's going on at home and how you can get involved, because you'll see that the refrigerator isn't stocked like it normally is. The house is a little unkept more than it normally would have been as you knew your mom and dad. You'll see the bills that are piling up in the corner of the cabinets that maybe I'm not sure they know that it's time to pay these bills. You'll notice that their telephone may have been disconnected because they didn't hit the time that was, time to pay their bill. Electricity can be turned off just by them not remembering to pay their bills. And then that becomes our responsibility as adult children to step in and not be threatening with them. Just say, how can I be of help to you?
Well, that leads right into what I have listed as segment 2 for today's show, and that is the signs and change in living situation that may be needed or that you're experiencing. And that's brilliant. Some of the points I have listed are falls and mobility issues, medication mismanagement, notable loss of weight and poor nutrition. I know a big one is driving concerns. We've talked about that on the show before. And like you just said, also the house not being maintained.
Yeah. The driving concerns bothers me a lot because it's not just the individual behind the wheel that can get hurt, which would be bad enough. It's the car that they run into that has small children, and it could change their lives forever. And we have to think about that as adult children. Well, I don't want to hurt Dad's, feelings by telling him he's not able to drive anymore. I'm going to give some small suggestions on that right now, and that's a totally different show, and that's almost a whole show. I would contact the doctor, the resident's doctor, and we would have a conversation about safety concerns with Dad. And then that doctor is able to contact the Division of Motor Vehicles and make the suggestion whether that license should be taken or not. It gets it off the adult child. Then the parent understands that the doctor does not think that he is eligible to be behind the wheel anymore. And then you, as the adult child, you say, Dad, what do we need to do to put measures in place so that you can still get everywhere you want to go every day? And then that just requires probably hiring a caregiver or members of the family jumping in to say, I'm able to take him here today. I'm able to take him there tomorrow. And I've found with our parents, if we just sit down and say, these are my concerns, and I love you so much that I want to make sure you never have to go through any kind of trauma like that, most of the time our parents are reasonable with that.
I also think about, you mentioned it earlier in the show, but just the information that Mom and Dad may not be giving you to make these informed decisions. And by you going into the home and just saying, hey, I'm here. I mean, I know I've done that with my grandparents. I'm here. What technology needs do you have?
And he gives you a whole list.
And there's, I need my door roller, I need the TV replaced. I can't get my Wi-Fi on. And, and you're like, okay, well, that's a lot. How long has this been a problem, right? And then you get into the whole topic of the husband and wife team covering for each other.
Absolutely.
And not that we would never have any, experience in that realm.
Yeah.
But they do.
Yeah, they do.
And what one may not be failing at, the other one makes up for, and you're able to go in. So just I think laying eyes on it is a big deal.
And being reasonable about it. If you see it, if it bothers you, then you should do something about it. The denial part of my parents being safe for an adult child, it literally is your responsibility to remember what it was like when, they took care of you when you were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they guided you on something that was dangerous or something they didn't want you taking part of because it might hurt you. You then revert roles at this stage in life, and you are protecting their safety. If something is dangerous for them, you want to alert them to that, and you become, the gap stop with all of that. You become the person that is doing a little hovering for a while, and it's not going to be easy at first because the last thing that someone wants to lose is their independence. And so, as the adult children, you have to help them understand that is not failure. It's being informed and taking things, to the point to where we're going to be safe.
I just want to talk about medication mismanagement, because that can go a long ways too. Whenever you think that mom and dad are taking their crucial medicine that provides them with longevity of life, and they're getting their blood pressure pills and everything's right where it needs to be, but then you go in the home and you're like, oh, there's way too many pills left in this bottle. That's another thing that can really speed up aging that's not necessary as long as they're being checked in on.
Exactly. And again, out of sight, out of mind. As adult children, that's much easier to deal with. When you go in and hit it on, head on, then that's harder. I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's not. And the other thing I think that as adult children, we may take, as a cut towards us is they're doing that on purpose. Most of the time they are not. There's a cognitive disability somewhere in that scene there that's causing them to forget or not to be able to keep up with. There's all kinds of in-home medication management routines that if you check into, I'm going to plug a local pharmacy here in Lynchburg, but Hill City Pharmacy delivers straight to your home and keeps up with your medications through bubble packs. And so to the human eye, it's going to be hard to look at a pill bottle and count how many have they missed and where are we in this regime. But if you have a bubble pack system, which that pharmacy takes place in setting up for you, not only do they set it up for you, but they bring it directly to the home, and they're able to then pick up others and see they are missing some. So, the pharmacist can, stay in touch with you as the adult child and say, count how many is still there, and then I'll be able to tell you how far behind they are. And that is very difficult to get your parents to buy into, too. And I'm not speaking from experience here, but I am. I'm still able to open up that pill bottle, and I can certainly keep up with my medication. And I can't tell you there's a magic way to make that happen with them other than to just be consistently involved, because there will come a day to where you have to exert some authority there.
Mom, you just mentioned about maybe they're not purposely missing their pills. Maybe there's a cognitive. So there's a lot of cognitive emotional signs that you'll also find about maybe having the time for the discussion of needing placement. Memory decline, isolation or depression, their mood swings, confusion with finances, unpaid bills, scams, which we touched on last week.
Yeah.
Reporting stories or seeing people or missing appointments.
Right. The seeing people is very concerning to me because there's a certain kind of dementia that's related with that. Now, I have seen some folks that isolation can cause that as well. But most of the time when you're seeing people, we need to get them to first their medical doctor for an immediate appointment, and then he will refer to a geriatric psychiatrist. And then you'll determine what sort of dementia is developing with that. That's a very frightening thing for the individual as well. For the adult child, we can come back to work and talk, well, Mom just said she saw somebody in the bushes last night, and I don't really think she did. That's extremely frightening for her.
Sure.
She believes that. She sees it. There's something going on chemically in the brain. The dementia, that whatever form of dementia she's diagnosed with, will support those findings. And so as the adult child, you really need to take that very seriously.
And they're just not scared in that moment.
They're scared
that memory
throughout the day.
They're like, are they still here? Where are they at? I think they're around the back of the house now. What are they here for?
What that can cause them to do is to leave the house in the middle of the night, which you don't want them to do, because They feel like somebody's coming in after them. They need to get in their car and leave. You don't know where they would wind up. You don't know what time of night that could happen. They could also, if there's firearms in the house, they could also reach for that and start shooting at what they see in their mind that's not real. So there's so many ramifications that can cause that we really need to take some of those signs very seriously.
Talk a little bit about the confusion with finances.
Confusion with finances is something, too, that they're probably not doing on purpose. They just are losing that sense of time. And sometimes that comes from no socialization whatsoever because every morning looks the same. Every evening looks the same. There's nobody coming and going out of their house. There's very few calls coming into the house. They just really lose the time stamp of where I am during the day. And so then the bills can add up because they don't know what time of the month it is. That's something that early on you should offer to take from your parents is the bill pay.
I also think that it's important to have your parents or your loved one retain their purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's at retirement age or they just may be slowing down. We've seen a lot of data and research that the brain stays more active. They add years onto their lives by having a purpose, whether that's having friends and playing, looking forward to playing cards every day. But keeping that purpose is key.
Yeah. Even with our independent living, we do really small things that matter. They go to the local humane society on a regular basis. Most of the time they make dog treats before they go and take them to the dogs. They're cleaning the cat glass so that because the cats evidently are in the windows a lot. So I've seen them, on video cleaning the glass so the cats can still see out. They're holding the animals. So that's nurturing their soul and their spirit. And so, we'll do things like that. The other things that we do in independent living, and this is in a facility, so you can certainly do it at home, is we do group activities like card games. We just made a new art gallery at Liberty Ridge. Yep. And so all the artists that live in the facility now are going to be able to display their art on a monthly basis and then change it out. What's that doing? It's giving them purpose to go back to their room, create new art, because every month is going to get displayed. You may have an artist that, your mom or dad may be an artist. Make sure they have their supplies. Make sure that their supplies are set up and they can paint every day. There are things we can do to keep them home, but we have to be actively involved in that.
100%. And I think where that goes is you've referred to it on the show before. And I think that takes a lot of looking into your inner self as that child and being like, yes, mom and dad's wishes are to stay at home, but depending on their age and their needs, am I actually hurting them? Yes, they're at home, but at what quality of life
At what cost
are they?
does that come?
Yeah.
Yeah, emotionally and physically. And sometimes they don't eat well when they're at home. Who wants to eat by themselves? And most of the time they're grabbing a pack of crackers and going to bed, which malnutrition is one of the major health risks that we have with seniors that live at home because they don't take the energy or the effort to cook a well-balanced meal.
Sure.
And that, again, is something that the adult child has to be involved in. And so I'm asking everybody today that's listening to this is if it's your wishes to keep them at home versus researching and finding a quality retirement community for them to live in, are you willing to be that involved in their daily lives to make it work?
Because you're also battling your younger children and making sure that they're at school on time and you have your full job. And we all know we're the busiest humanity's ever been, right? There's always something going on, somewhere to be.
Right.
You're always behind. And then when you're sitting thinking, oh, man, I forgot to check in on mom and dad today. Yeah, I wonder what they did. I wonder what they had for dinner.
Right.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I mean, and a lot of times they revert to what they used to eat back in the, so they're kind of eating lima beans and coleslaw and a hot dog and some bologna, and you're like, well, that's not healthy.
Right. Those are things that you have to sit down and identify. Is this what you want? And then I think the guilt will naturally fade away when you see the pros and cons of leaving them at home versus a care community.
Mom, as we close out the show, I got one more discussion prompt for you here. if I were to say, often families wait for a major incident to happen, but what are the early warning signs that we all should be watching for?
Well, I think the confusion, the delusions of seeing people in your home, the fear, the anxiety, the isolation should be the number one thing that you move in quickly, because you don't want your loved one to have to live that way. That's the most fearful that they will ever be. So look at a care community whenever something starts going awry like that. If it's just simple health needs like medication management and she needs bathed 2 or 3 times a week, look for someone. Look for a licensed caregiving business to come in and take care of those needs for mom and dad. Look at benefits that can help them, like the VA benefits and things that they may qualify financially to help you keep them at home. But don't just sit back and do nothing. Make sure you're doing something.
And don't wait for that major incident.
That's right. Don't wait.
Well, Mom, we've had a great discussion today. Thank you for all wonderful insight. Hopefully that allows some education there for
That's
our
right.
listeners, which is our main goal. And I'm going to leave you with a closing message.
Well, today I just want to say the best transitions into senior living don't happen in a crisis. They happen through conversations, planning, and love. When we prepare early, we give our parents the dignity of choice instead of the pressures of an emergency. I really, really love that today. Take it all to heart. And until next time, I'm Vickie, and we're both right here around the table.